The latest college football playoff rankings are out. Where does Texas Tech stand headed into the finale of the regular season out in Morgantown against the West Virginia Mountaineers? We'll look at the bracket. Is Texas Tech slated for a home playoff game? We'll discuss that as well as the games that matter this weekend when it comes to Texas Tech potentially getting a bye in the college football playoff, as well as one of the coordinators for Texas Tech football being linked to a now open position in the Lone Star State. Let's discuss. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Red and Black Report. Appreciate y'all tuning in to today's video. It was ridiculous that I had to wait for Seton Hall and USC to finish up in Maui to get the college football playoff rankings, but that's just me complaining heavily about the schedule. Anyway, let's jump right into this. But before we do, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button, as 50% of y'all that watch these videos don't subscribe to the channel. It's 100% free, and it only helps us and, well, helps you stay in the know as well all year long for Texas Tech football and men's basketball. All right, the latest college football playoff bracket. You can see it on your screen right there. And I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised that Texas Tech stayed at 5. Tulane, still the highest group of 5. That game would be slated out in Lubbock, Texas, the weekend after the Red Raiders presumably play in the Big 12 title game in this scenario. I thought Oregon was going to jump Texas Tech. And the reason being is this: it felt like really the committee was just waiting for an opportunity to move another Big 10 team up, and most notably Oregon, in the sense of, all right, Oregon, prove to us that you can be a team that actually matters in our eyes, in our algorithms, well, eyes as well. And they did that. They beat Lincoln Riley up in Eugene and the Trojans of the aforementioned USC, obviously this time on the gridiron and not the hardwood. But Oregon moves up. They pass Ole Miss. And the reason I thought they could pass Texas Tech is the simple fact of they beat USC, a top 15 team, in that matchup, and Ole Miss and Texas Tech were on a bye. This solidifies in my mind without an unequivocal doubt, regardless of really what happens in the Big 12 title game, if Texas Tech is to make it there, and they are very heavy favorites to do so. In fact, we'll talk about the odds in tomorrow's game preview video for the Red Raiders at the Mountaineers. Texas Tech is the 5th best team in the country, according to this committee, and it's not particularly close. I think there's a sizable gap right now between Texas Tech at 5 and Oregon at 6, and a lot of metrics back that up. Some metrics have Texas Tech as one of the top 3 teams in the country. That being said, you're probably not going to put them ahead of a team like Georgia that only has 1 loss in the SEC. I get it. That makes sense. And A&M's undefeated, and so is Indiana and Ohio State. So 5 is the natural landing spot. That being said, I thought at the first opportunity that the committee had to move one of those 2 quote-unquote mega conferences in the Big 10 and SEC, a team that was legitimately, had the resume to move in front of Texas Tech, okay, they were going to do it. That being said, this committee loves the Red Raiders, and rightfully so. Their lone loss is now to a top 20 team in the college football playoff ranking, as the Arizona State Sun Devils now come in the top 20. At 20, you've got the Utah win. Utah fell a spot after they gave up damn near 1,000 yards, it felt like, on the ground to Kansas State. I'm only slightly exaggerating. I mean slightly. They ended up winning. They come in at 13. BYU stays at 11, and then Texas Tech comes in at 5 to round out the top 20 when it comes to Big 12 schools. So, again, the Red Raiders, easily the 5th best team in the country, according to a lot of metrics, and the committee agrees, even after having a bye out in the 806, and Oregon having a pretty impressive win, albeit at home, but still, it's an impressive win against Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans. So Texas Tech will still be slated, as it stands right now, to host a home playoff game out in the 806 against the group of 5 champion. Right now, the highest ranked, and I say champion, the highest ranked group of 5 team. Right now, that is Tulane. Maybe that's James Madison. We shall see how it ends up after the conference title games happen in each respective conference. But right now, Texas Tech would be slated to host a home playoff game against the G5 school and then go on to play Georgia in the quarterfinals. All right. Before we get into anything else, I do want to discuss like some games that matter this weekend. And what do I mean by that? If you want Texas Tech to get a bye, there are certain outcomes you are probably going to want to see this weekend. Okay. And let's just jump right into it and look at some of the games that, well, are slated for this weekend. Obviously, Ole Miss, you're behind them, or you're ahead of them, excuse me, Texas Tech is. But they're at 7 now after the committee move them down for a bye week, and Oregon up a spot. So I guess you would want them to beat Mississippi State or have Mississippi State beat Ole Miss. I don't know if it really matters. The game that I'm watching in terms of games that matter for Texas Tech to potentially move into that top 4, there's 2. Georgia at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got thoroughly outclassed and embarrassed this past weekend. Let's see how they respond. It's a rivalry game, and anything can happen during rivalry week, right? We know that. We see weird, crazy upsets all the times for teams that are in the top 5 losing to teams that aren't even bowl eligible. It's rivalry week. It means more, right? Not just an SEC slogan. It actually does this week for every conference in America. The other game that matters in this one is Texas A&M at Texas. I am not going to tell you to root for Texas because that is against every fiber of my being as a Red Raider. But if you would like to see an increased opportunity for the Red Raiders to get a bye, if you are on team bye, well, you probably want Texas to win that game. Funny enough, those games are on Friday. Those are the 2 games I'm watching most. You obviously have Ohio State and Michigan. Let's be real. Even if Ohio State loses, you're not jumping them if you're the Red Raiders. Same can be said about Indiana. If Indiana loses to Purdue, I don't think you're jumping them. I just don't. But maybe I'm wrong there. The games that I'm watching for are Texas A&M and Georgia. I am not saying you would jump them necessarily if you were to win against West Virginia. What I'm saying is it becomes a lot more finicky, especially if Texas Tech goes on to be 12-1 after a Big 12 title win. There's a lot better chance with 2 wins, and some of those teams may not have an opportunity to bolster their resume in a conference title game with all of the, well, tiebreakers and all that stuff. I'm not even going to act like I'm a tiebreaker scientist when it comes to what's going on in the SEC. I know Alabama has the clearest path, but outside of that, I'm not too sure on anything else. But those are the 2 games I'm watching. If you are on team bye, obviously we need Texas Tech to handle their business. There's no doubt about that. But those what I'm watching in terms of if you are team bye, like I am team bye, I will admit I want Texas Tech to get the bye. All right. One more time, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button before you head out of here. And before you head out of here, we actually got some news today that a Texas Tech legend took a job within the Big 12. Eric Morris is leaving North Texas to go be the coach in Stillwater for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So first and foremost, congratulations to Emo. I mean, that is dope. I mean, if you know his story and know how he is a quarterback whisperer, I hate that he is now in the Big 12 because it seems like everywhere he goes, he gets the absolute most out of his quarterbacks. And Texas Tech, unfortunately, will have to play him quite a bit in the Big 12. That being said, the reason I'm bringing that up from a Texas Tech standpoint, outside of obviously the tie to the Red Raiders and him playing for Mike Leach, is the fact that now Texas Tech may have a coordinator be involved in that coaching search in Denton. Let's go ahead and get it on your screen. This is from Dave Campbell, high school football, Mike Craven. He put out his list of teams, or excuse me, coaches that should be in the mix for the UNT job. And as you see right there, the Dave Campbell Texas football pick is actually Mack Leftwich. Now, that does not mean Mack Leftwich is the favorite to land this job. He is just the guy that they think should be the highly most coveted guy for North Texas. Some of the other team or names on this list, excuse me, are Billy Napier. You've got Neil Brown with his Texas ties. There's a couple of others as well, but Mack Leftwich will be in the mix, I think, or at least get a phone call from the administration there in Denton to gauge interest for the UNT head coaching role. There will be a lot of interest because Emo got them back to where they are relevant. In the American, they have some investment in one of the most, well, expensive rosters in the group of 5. So let's see if they can keep that momentum going, and maybe they go the young route once again. Emo was a young hire when he came to Denton. Maybe they go that young route again and go after a guy like Mack Leftwich. Obviously, I would love for him to stay out in the 806, but hey, that's the nature of being a great football team. there are going to be job openings and your coordinators are going to be involved in those searches or at least linked to them. So we'll see what comes of it, but Mack Leftwich is linked at least to a head coaching job in the state of Texas. That UNT job after Emo, Eric Morris, the Texas Tech legend, heads north to Oklahoma and Stillwater specifically to be the Cowboys head coach. They always got to copy us. Xerox you, man. I'm telling you. Unbelievable stuff. But to recap today's video real quick for you guys, Texas Tech remains at number 5 in the latest college football playoff rankings, just behind Ohio State at number 1, Indiana at 2, Texas A&M at 3, and then Georgia at 4. So no change in the top 5. Oregon now right behind the Red Raiders at number 6, with Ole Miss falling to 7. Right now, the projection in terms of the college football playoff rankings would be the Red Raiders hosting a home playoff game out in the 806 against the highest ranked group of 5 team, which is right now, as of today, the week of Thanksgiving, Tulane. We shall see how that ends up, but there's a couple games to watch this weekend if you want to be on team bye for the Red Raiders in the college football playoff. Obviously, they have to handle business, but the games I'm watching most are Georgia at Georgia Tech. Maybe Georgia Tech can surprise some people. Haynes King was having a Heisman season before that slip-up they had last week, or Heisman-type season, I should say. And then A&M at Texas. Again, I am not telling you to root for the Longhorns. I refuse to do it. I know you do too, but is it a game of interest when it comes to Texas Tech seeding? You absolutely better believe it. And then, obviously, Mack Leftwich being linked to the gig in Denton after Emo leaves for Stillwater. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Appreciate y'all tuning in one more time. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button. I'm looking at you 50%ers tuning into the video. They're 100% free, and well, we keep you pretty informed here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube right here in the Red and Black Report. All right, I'm RC Maxfield reminding you, as always, stay safe and Recom Tech.